Yo, what's up? Hello, hello. There's something on my hat. Cat hair. Lots of great. Uh, oh, what's up, Walrus? Spill secrets. I don't know if I have any secrets. I have information on how I did this month. I don't know. I don't know how many secrets I have, but hopefully I can provide some interesting stuff. Um, yeah, we got a few different things. We've got the monthly sales breakdown. I'm gonna go over that, and then there's two videos that we might only go over one video. It depends how long the monthly sales breakdown takes. Um, Classics put out a video called "Is the Pokemon Community Toxic?" which I think is a very interesting question, and coming from Pokemon Classics, one of probably the most just like upbeat, like cool guys. Uh, Kind of interesting to hear his perspective on whether or not it is toxic. Um, and then there was another one that is from Seismic Shock TV. He did a video about the new Pokemon Classic set from the Pokemon Presents. I have to say, nothing really interesting, really, came from Pokemon Presents apart from the Pokemon Classics thing. What's up, Crawdad? How's it going? Welcome. Thanks for stopping in. Um, so the new Pokemon Classics TCG thing. Maybe we could just talk about it. You guys can. I'll make a video. Is Pokemon Classics video editing talks? I like his video editing. I think he does a good job. How's it going, Jesse? Welcome. So I put myself in the, what do they call it? Like what do they call it? The raffle, to buy Pokemon Classic TCG box or whatever from the Japanese Pokemon Center, and I had a couple questions about it. First of all, obviously they're reprinting the OG starters again with like cool gold borders. I'll show you. Hold on. Yeah, you can see the Mewtwo here. Cool gold borders, which is cool. The only thing that I was curious about is it seemed like, how's it going, Nick? Welcome in. How's it going, Pedro? It seemed like that this was going to be a almost like a battle stadium where it gave you three different decks, kind of teaching, kind of like a starter kit to learning how to play the game the classic way, especially like with the classic rules or whatever. But then they made it $300. And then I was like, wait, so this is like a collectible item. This isn't like a for everyone type of thing to like learn how to play the game classically. This is like a collectible item. Because at first I was like, oh, they're gonna print the shit out of this because it's a battle stadium. Like it's supposed to teach you how to play the game the old way, and they could have expansions in the future. They could put out like the jungle expansion to go with your classic Pokemon Classic TCG box. And then I was like, wait, why is it $300 though? Like that's not very approachable for most people. So it definitely seems more like a collector's item than like a thing you're actually going to play based on how it's priced, which was kind of weird because I felt like it was kind of pitched like, let's teach you how to play the classic way and we're going to reprint all these cards and isn't this cool? And then the price is like, these are going to be limited. We're making them $300 and good luck. So I entered the raffle or the lottery. I hope that I'm able to I don't know, get something. It's I think I've entered raffles or lotteries on Amazon Japan, I think, before, not on the Pokemon Center. So I've heard things like they kind of know what the Tenso addresses are and they avoid them because I've heard people who use those addresses get skipped over a lot for these types of things. I don't know if that's true or if that's like a tinfoil hat theory type of thing. But I did put in for one, and hopefully I get one because I would really enjoy that, and I think they're going to be really expensive when they come out. It feels more like a high-end board game targeted at people in their 30s who grew up with base set. Just like, yeah, it feels very much like a collector's item, like a premium collection item sort of thing, and not a almost like the rocket case and stuff like that. It feels more like that than it does like a battle stadium in the West. That's like $40 and teaches you how to play the game. Um, the only way for Pokemon people to make money is to buy Lorcana. I don't know, man. It looks like Lorcana pre-orders are like $300 or something stupid. If I can find Lorcana in the store and buy it, I will buy something to open, but I am not going to pre-order for insane prices on Lorcana. I'm not the demographic for that. I'm not a big like Disney, like I'm big on Disney in terms of like Marvel and Star Wars and some of the Disney movies, but I'm not like a Mickey Mouse fan or something. I was just never like big into Disney in that way. I play by the rules and entered once. Won't be too upset if I don't get it. Yeah, I hope I get it. Obviously, if I really wanted it, I could probably buy it. I would think that they'll probably come out at like 2 times what they're worth or 3 times what they're worth or something stupid. So if I really wanted it, I could buy it, but I wouldn't buy it at that price for sure. 2 Tenso addresses was able to get 2 precious collector boxes. Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I've heard some people, I don't know, probably just salty people that think that they should have got one that didn't end up getting one, and then you know how that always goes. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well so far today and this week. It's almost over. Tomorrow's Friday. It's Friday for Nick already. Oh, what's up, Oni Life? Welcome. Didn't mean to ignore you. Give me some time, man. Give me some time. I'm still reading chat. Is it the same for lotteries though? Precious collection box was a pre-order. Oh, the collector's box you just pre-ordered. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know about what was the last big lottery item that people were wanting. I'm trying to think. It had to be like a premium collection or something like that, right? Like a um I don't even know. I don't know. I haven't entered into a lottery on that site before. I've only done the Amazon JP at this point, but maybe Amazon JP will have these up to Scarlet or Violet boxes. Oh yeah, I don't really enter lotteries for the new TCG boxes. I probably could now that I have a Tenso address, which kind of surprised they didn't make this a pre-order either. So if you win like a lottery spot, do you only get one? Do you only get a spot for one? Is that I'm assuming that that's the case? Like it's not just like, oh, you get to purchase and then you can purchase like a maximum of a certain amount, or is it just one? Got it, just one. All right, got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I don't know if it's still this way over in Japan, but it was definitely hard to find product, and then once you did, it was very regulated at certain places. Like the card store that I was able to find booster boxes at only let me buy one per day. And then the I think they took down my name and everything too. They only let me buy one per day, and then the other box that I was able to buy was at a Pokemon Center, and they ripped the package in front of me to open. So they're regulating hard where they can, but obviously there are people that are just flat out like getting tons of boxes from distribution and sending it all to the West. So that's been obviously happening, and at a marked up price. Was the Sun and Moon Alolan Friend Premium Collector Box a lottery item? I have no idea. That was years ago now, probably, right? When that came out? I probably wasn't even in the hobby when that came out. I have no clue. So it's up to you guys. You guys want to go through the monthly sales breakdown first, or do you want to watch a video first? It's up to you. I'm down for anything, so it really depends. This video will stay up after the fact, so if you can't stick around for one or the other, you can definitely come back to it and watch what you miss. I'm not taking down the streams anymore. I'm just gonna leave them up, and and whatever happens. Still the same. Did a tour around Ikebukuro the other day. Saw 2 V-Star Universe packs in one store. That was it. Aside from some Go and Phantasma. Yeah, Go and Phantasma were the only things available at the Pokemon centers when I went. I was able to find one booster box at a place in Shibuya of the newest set, the Lugia set, whichever that one was called. I was able to get one box of that, but they limited me to one. Drama first? Okay, which one's considered drama? The toxic video one? All right, so we have I know a lot of you guys just came in. I kind of explained it before, but we'll explain it again. Today I'm going to go through my monthly sales breakdown for February. So that's going to include 3 different items this time, not just my flipping that I typically do, but it's going to include my flipping that I normally do. That's my eBay sales, Japanese, get stuff from Japan, grade it, all that stuff. It's also going to include the money I made at the booth. So obviously I opened the booth at the comic book shop, and that did really well this month. So we're going to talk about how well that did. And then on top of that, we're also going to talk about the collection that I bought and how much of that money I made back this month compared to how much I spent. So there's 3 different kind of sections of the monthly sales breakdown we're going to go through. I also, because I graded a lot of these vintage cards at CGC, I also compare my CGC sale price to the PSA equivalent, and we're going to take a look and see just how far off those sale prices are, and if it was worth sending to CGC versus PSA. So yeah. What's my most expensive card? Probably my Charizard Pikachu Poncho. I think they're going for like between 3,000 and 4,000, I think. That's probably my most expensive card. And a card that I don't currently want to sell. What's up, Pikachu? How's it going? I thought you don't want to talk about drama. Well, this, I'm 99% sure that Pokemon Classics won't be talking about individual people. So, and neither, I will try my best not to talk about individual people too, because I don't want to do that type of drama stuff at all. I think it's toxic. So that's not stuff that I want to do whatsoever. But Pokemon Classics made a video this week, and you know, we love Pokemon Classics here. We've watched multiple videos of his so far, and it's called "Is the Pokemon Community Toxic?" So it's just seems like it goes through and explains whether or not he thinks the people in there, that there are people in the hobby that are toxic. So we'll go through that and we'll see what he has to say. He's a very like even keel, like really nice guy with a upbeat attitude, and so it'll be interesting to see what he thinks about the toxicity in the hobby, and whether or not it is toxic in ways. And then we kind of talked about this already. This one had a bunch of this was about the Pokemon Classics TCG. So I guess everything you need to know about this set compared to the Pokemon 151 set. We already kind of talked about this. Kind of surprised me. Can we talk about how Suicune apparently, and you guys can, I'm not like a paleontologist, I'm not a fucking Jurassic era like scientist, but can someone please explain to me, did dogs evolve from velociraptors? I'm just curious, because I thought, now I'm not going to say what I thought because I have no fucking clue what I'm talking about, but that new Suicune, why was Suicune now a velociraptor when he was a dog? Aren't they supposed to be kind of like similar? It's just weird. Why would they turn Suicune? They could have just turned him into like a more like prehistoric looking dog. They didn't have to go full on Velociraptor. That's just strange. I don't know if that has any basis in science or history or anything, but it was like, what are you guys doing over there? Why are we making dog Pokemon into dinosaur Pokemon? It was a little weird. I feel like it was a little weird. Um, yeah, it just didn't really make much sense. Suicune evolved from a walking wake, I guess. Is that what it's called? Walking wake? Backstory would be cool if their original form before Ho-Oh revived them. Oh, if that's their original form, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we already have a story of that though, right? Where we see the do we see the dogs die, or do we just see like shadows of the dogs die and then they're revived by Ho-Oh? I don't remember. I feel like that's been depicted somewhere. There's something in my mind that I feel like I watched that in something. Maybe it was a video or some sort of custom thing, but yeah, we can talk about. Okay, so we're going to talk about how Classics thinks that the Pokemon community is toxic, and then I'll talk a little bit about the different parts of the community that I think are toxic, and then we can go from there. And then after the video, we'll go into my monthly sales breakdown. We'll talk numbers. We've got a whole spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. Do you love spreadsheets? Hopefully it's informative for you guys. But let's do the video first, and then. And I'm sorry, but I am going to do 1.25 because I have the attention span of a 12-year-old on TikTok. So let's do 1.25, jump into Pokemon Classics video. Is the Pokemon community toxic? Let's see what he thinks. Hold on.
In the 2017 reimagining of Ash's start as a Pokemon trainer, there is a powerful scene that has always stuck with me. In this scene, we watch as Ash is possessed by Marshadow, corrupting Ash's thoughts and feelings as he projects his anger onto his Pokemon after losing a battle. It's unsettling to watch as Ash turns his back on Pikachu and walks away from his friends, venturing alone into the woods, even expressing his regret at not having chosen Bulbasaur or Squirtle as a starter.
If only my first Pokemon had been a Squirtle or Bulbasaur.
Eventually, he falls asleep and dreams of a nightmarish world where Pokemon didn't exist. And instead of going on adventures with his friends, he's stuck in the monotony of the real world, attending classes, and yearning for something more. As if to emphasize the depressing and isolated nature of this reality, the scene is rendered almost entirely in a grayscale, except for the fleeting memory of Pikachu that remains just out of Ash's reach. Eventually, Ash realizes his mistake,
or is it in
makes
the movie?
Amends with his Pokemon, vowing to be a better trainer and to never take for granted their mutual friendship. It's at that point that Marshadow is expelled from Ash, and the feather of Ho-Oh illuminates once more, symbolizing the restoration of Ash's heart. This scene hits hard,
I didn't.
And every time I see it, I can't help but reflect on the metaphorical nature of this scene, and what better day to do that than today, Pokemon's anniversary. You see, to me, this scene is timeless. It's basically a modern-day retelling of A Christmas Carol, in which Ebenezer Scrooge is visited by a series of ghosts to show him the error of his ways before reforming himself and finding joy in sharing life with others. And I think that's an important concept that's incredibly relevant in the Pokemon community today.
I'm sorry to pause this, but this scene, for some reason, and I think it's because we see a black and white Ash, because I think in this scene he's black and white. But did you guys watch the remade? Was it like claymation? What was that 3D animated? Was it Pokemon I Choose You or something on Netflix? The one where the scene with Mewtwo happens at the end, where he gets like frozen and he quote unquote like dies, and then he has to be woken up by Pikachu or whatever, and like the bond and love between them like wakes him up. But Pikachu literally talks. He speaks in English and talks in the cutscene, and it's so freaking weird. And I just remember watching like supercuts of all of these different theaters where he starts talking, and everybody in the theater starts booing and laughing because it was the dumbest thing ever. It was so... maybe I'm being toxic now, but I don't know why this reminded me of that scene, but it just reminded me of that, and then I just spiraled into that weird CGI remake of the original movie where Pikachu speaks in English. It was super freaking weird. Yeah, I don't know why that took this scene took me straight there, and then I had to say something because I was gonna start laughing, and obviously this isn't really a funny scene.
With so much money pouring into the hobby, the growing presence of scams and fraudulent activities, it's easy to get discouraged and forget why we're here. Like Ash, we run the risk of allowing outside forces to
Oh.
infiltrate our own
Is he
hearts
gonna
and minds,
dodge the
corrupting
drama
us,
completely?
and obscuring the things that matter most. I'm Pokemon Classics, and today I invite you to join me as we try to wrestle with this all too familiar question: is the Pokemon community toxic? But first,
He might dodge the drama completely, which might be a good idea for the video, because he just mentioned like scams, scalpers. Like, I can think of a lot of ways in which people take advantage of people, which could make the community toxic, but then not really addressing like the creators in the community and how toxic they can be. So I think from his perspective is probably a good idea to stay away from the creator part of it. But it does say drama affect the Pokemon TCG, so it is possible that later on he does talk about the drama that can occur within the community. But we'll keep going.
let's roll the intro. There's no doubt that the last few years have cast shadows over the landscape of Pokemon card collecting. We've certainly seen our share of social media drama, high-profile scams, Pokemon-related thefts, and a growing emphasis on money, sometimes coming at the expense of collectors and players. While these trends may not be entirely new to the hobby, they have become more prevalent, leading some to conclude that the Pokemon community is toxic. Today, I want to explore this.
I mean, let's be real. The head of the Pokemon community, the figurehead of this thing for the last 2 years has been Logan Paul. Of course there's going to be toxicity in a community that's figurehead is literally Logan Paul. And I'm glad that we're finally I feel like we're finally separating from him as he moves on to his crypto scams and stuff like that. But yeah, we just need to separate, just a clean separation, and move ahead and don't look back. Because of course, obviously, that's going to cause some issues. I do feel this is definitely something that I had to think about going into the comic book shop, and I've talked about it before, but in terms of theft and stuff, definitely the last 2 years, and I'll just say that I will just say that a card store owner that I am aware of and have talked to has said things about their store having literally being stolen from. Not stolen cards or anything, but just stolen money from. And there were a lot of different stories, news stories out of Japan, out of the US, out of different places where card stores were just literally just broken into and everything stolen out of them. Because, Pokemon skyrocketed, became a super hot commodity. And of course, people wanted it. And, all of us have been into a Walmart where you go into the card aisle and there's just empty wrappers everywhere because kids just go in and steal all the cards. And, on a bigger scale, that shit's going to happen, unfortunately. And so when I decided that I was going to supply Pokemon to the comic book shop, it was definitely something I had to think about. Was I don't want to put stuff that's going to be super expensive and draw any sort of negative attention to this guy's store that he wouldn't normally have, being a comic and used books, place. I don't want to draw any of that extra attention because I don't want to be the reason why his store gets broken into, or there's some sort of theft or arson or something terrible happen to his livelihood, because now part of that is on me. And that's definitely something that I had to think about when supplying and putting things in the case and everything. I don't want to put anything. I'm not going to put a $5,000 Poncho Pikachu in the case in that store, because that's just inviting people to break in and steal something or do something bad. How's it going, Cam? How's it going, All Man? Welcome. Kids steal cards for sure. I do think it is kids a lot of times, but I think it's also definitely adults as well. What's up, Cam? Hope you're doing well, man. Hope your time in Orlando was nice. I didn't realize that you were going to that. Yeah, but it sounds like you guys might be doing. Are you guys doing another? Are you guys going to Dallas? I feel like you guys are doing another one, or maybe I was just misunderstanding a conversation that was happening in Discord. But yeah, all right, let's keep going.
This idea by examining 3 categories of people that exist in the Pokemon community and how their presence can affect the community as a whole. These categories include the scammers, the opportunists, and the drama makers.
Well, the scammers
First,
are
let's talk about the
obviously
scammers.
bad.
Every industry has its share of scams, which can come in a number of different forms. However, the one thing that all have in common is a willingness by a few bad actors to exploit others through intentional fraud and deception.
Unless you're crypto and NFTs. Most of the people creating new coins and fucking NFT scams, they're essentially all scammers right now. Or I feel like every week there's a new crypto rug pull scam happening that CoffeeZilla is covering. Or I just stay the hell away from all that shit, but yeah. James is going to Dallas. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Cool.
Now, the thing about scammers is that they're actually an incredibly small population of the broader community, yet they often leave the biggest impact. And that's because their actions are inherently destructive, directly harming their victims, but also creating a ripple effect of fear and disgust throughout the broader community.
Do they leave the biggest impact? Honestly, they might. I'm trying to think if the drama side of things would have a bigger impact than scammers. But I feel like scammers, there's a lot of things that go into, like, the after effects of being scammed. You know? Like, yeah, I mean, per person, the person getting scammed, but, like, in terms of the community as a whole, I do think it creates unrest. Like, when the fake PSA cases by that Zhao guy, was it Zhao? Is that what his name was? By that guy who was like cracking cards out, swapping them with worse cards and putting them into shitty PSA cases. They had like the holes. That's created a whole new thing where like people think that they're being scammed when they're actually not. And then we have, resealing constantly, like people thinking that they've got reseals from Japan when they actually don't, because some people actually have gotten reseals from Japan. I feel like resealing has always been a problem. I mean, when I bought that big collection with all those packs, like, I was terrified because that's the most of the money in that collection was in the vintage packs, and it was a lot of vintage packs. It was like 43 vintage packs, and that's the majority of the cost in the collection is in those packs. And that era specifically, the EX era, and just vintage packs in general, are constantly being like resealed and PokeRev constantly has videos of that shit being resealed. Leonhardt has videos of that shit being resealed. Like, that type of shit. I actually had to bust into a pack and risk $300, and thankfully I got 2 awesome pulls out of it. But, I actually had to risk it and open it to make sure that the rest of the packs I felt like were legit, because I'm not a person who handles vintage packs a lot. I can't just look at it and tell and be like, yeah, that's legit. Let me sell it to somebody. Like, I don't know. It definitely forced me to do my due diligence and figure out whether or not they were real. And so, yeah, I mean, the scammers might actually have a bigger than the drama, because the drama's just drama. Drama's not really impacting your purchases. Drama's not impacting like your confidence in like sellers and raps and stuff like that. Drama between YouTubers is just dumb most of the time. So I would say
Fear is, after all, a very powerful emotion, and nobody wants to get scammed, which is why so many of these situations draw mainstream attention. When it comes to Pokemon, most scams involve one of 3 things: deceiving others with resealed products, directly stealing cards or other merchandise, or intentionally misrepresenting items that are counterfeit, altered, or different than described. For example, you probably remember hearing about
scammed.
Logan Paul's resealed first edition.
If you've used BuyE, you've most likely been scammed at least once. Yeah. So, or if you're thinking about using BuyE, prepare to get scammed at least once.
Booster case filled with G.I. Joe packs, or Punch-Out Gaming, which was robbed of its Pokemon inventory by a man in a ski mask. There was also a man arrested last year for using COVID relief money to purchase a BGS-graded Charizard, and too many counterfeit and altered card situations to even quantify. Unfortunately, if you participate in the hobby long enough, you're likely to be the target of a scam at some point. And just as unfortunate is the fact that many people will look to these individuals as a representation of the Pokemon community as a whole. However, these individuals are not representative of the hobby, and there are a number of safeguards to help alleviate one's susceptibility to scams. Personally, I'd suggest transacting with reputable sellers or stores and using platforms with buyer and seller protection policies built in. Although it's not perfect, many sites like eBay and PayPal offer buyer
Please
protection
don't.
against
Okay.
fraudulent or
Thank
misrepresented
God.
items.
Thank God he didn't say by E. eBay, PayPal, good stuff. Thank God he didn't say by E. Oh.
And have even implemented authentication
I think
services
Classics
to
is
inspect higher
a
value
is an
cards,
English guy,
verifying
so
that both the seller and the buyer are safeguarded throughout the transaction. Scammers will always be a part of every community, particularly those with financial opportunity. However, don't let the Team Rocket thugs of the world contaminate your enjoyment and participation of the hobby. For every one shady individual out there, there are hundreds of respectable and morally upstanding friends just waiting to
probably
be met.
thousands.
Another interesting subset of people in the Pokemon community are the opportunists. Now, I want to be careful not to open up Pandora's box and begin a debate about what a true collector is or isn't.
Wait. This might get spicy. The opportunist. I feel slightly called out, but I like Pokemon, so does that make me an opportunist? Let's see what his Logan Paul is definitely an opportunist. I don't know if he cares at all about basically. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people collect Pokemon. They don't really care about like the money making side of things. And I think there's a lot of people in like our communities that care about the money making side of things, and they collect. But ultimately, collecting Pokemon is basically like taking part in this community and being involved is selling, buying, collecting, making money. Like it's really all of it. And you're taking part in all of it all the time. So,
in my opinion, such conversations often lead to unnecessary division and at least some level of gatekeeping within the hobby. However, I do think there are a number of individuals that have entered the hobby with the sole motivation of making money. Now, to be clear, I'm not talking about collectors who also run a business, or Pokemon fans who happen to enjoy investing in cards and booster boxes, or even store owners who only carry inventories with the intent to sell them. All of those actions require at least some level of engagement and a long-term interest in Pokemon. Rather, I'm speaking specifically of those that migrate from one industry to another with little, if any, knowledge or passion for that industry, hoping to capitalize on its...
You mean... Oh no. I shouldn't. I was being toxic. Okay, never mind. I caught myself before my toxicity seeped out.
momentum. Like a Ditto, they transform themselves with the market, latching on to whatever happens to be hot,
Not gonna say
looking
it.
to profit by any means necessary, and eventually disappearing when the easy money runs out. Unlike scammers, these people aren't doing anything inherently wrong, but that doesn't mean that they don't adversely affect the community. During the peak of the Pokemon boom, for example, there were accounts of individuals buying out McDonald's entire supplies of Happy Meal packs, only to be immediately flipped online at significantly higher prices. And for the better part of 2020 and 2021, there was so much hoarding and scalping of modern product from big box retailers that access to cards was almost impossible without turning to the secondary market.
It sucked. That's why I think that Shining Fates long term is kind of an issue of the set. Is I feel like Shining Fates is going to remind everyone of how much Pokemon and like the demand, the supply side of Pokemon when Shining Fates came out sucked. It was like everyone was in it, everyone wanted it, nobody was getting it, and all the people who had it were selling it for like 3 times as much as they should have been going for. It sucked to be like newly into the hobby around that time. It was terrible. There were a lot of nights of driving around to a ton of different stores just looking for any pack I could find to open because I just wanted to open some packs. And it's like the supply could not keep up and it sucked. And it was specifically with Shining Fates was like the set where that happened. So Shining Fates has kind of a black mark on it, I feel like, going forward because of that. But
Again, there is nothing illegal about retail arbitrage, and markets do have a way of self-correcting and stabilizing over time, but this singular issue negatively affected the experience and the perceptions of many collectors and players for a significant period of time. From stores rationing...
So I don't think Classics is talking about, like, us, like me. Someone who likes Pokemon, someone who used to collect it as a kid, getting back into it now, you know, has turned it into a business, is making money off of it, has a bit of a collection. I don't think he's talking about somebody like us. I think what he's talking about is he's talking about somebody who made a little money in crypto, and now he sees that Pokemon's booming, knows nothing about Pokemon, but he buys a bunch of product, and then that goes up a little bit, and so he sells that, and then the next thing it's NFTs. Oh my god, this NFT, I think it's gonna go crazy. He sells all his Pokemon and then buys into NFTs. Like those people that just like move from market to market to market once an opportunity presents itself, instead of talking about us who are like actively engaging in the hobby. We go to events, we buy, we sell, we collect, we do all those different things. We just happen to make money in the hobby. I don't think he's taking shots at us. I think he's taking shots at the people who couldn't care less that it's Pokemon. They just know that they might be able to make money in it, so that's why they're buying it. He's specifically he's calling me out. Fight him next creator clash, me and Classics. Oh, Classics low-key a monster. No, Classics is awesome. Let's see. One time when I was a kid, I told someone they sucked and they were getting lucky. Wait a minute. What are you guys talking about? And then we 1v1. He destroyed me. I turned off my Xbox and threw my controller and cried. Man, that's tough. I actually did have I was playing with my brother. My brother and one of his friends, and we were playing some multiplayer game online, and I kept yelling at my brother to like move position, and he kept ignoring me. So he would talk to his friend, but he would just ignore me the entire time. Like I kept trying to talk to him, be like, "Hey, move over there. Hey, move over there," and like he just like I wasn't there. He was only talking to his friend. So eventually. And, I'm not proud of this moment, but it happens. It happens to the best of us. We started losing. And so I started to get pissed. And I got up and I had a headset on, which was what I was hearing, them talking through, right? And I took my headset and I slammed it on the ground. And, of course, it broke, unfortunately. The one ear broke off. And I was like, well, I'm done for the night. And then I had to go buy a new headset. But my brother and I talked after that. We're good. We're cool. This was like a decade ago. I'm so old. Man. I feel like I've hit that point where I've gotten to the age now where people are starting to do that whole, hey, remember when this came out? That was 15 years ago. And people keep doing that online where they're like, oh, remember when The Last of Us came out? That was 10 years ago. And I'm just like, fuck. I thought the other day, I was like, oh man, I really love Alien. Maybe I should look at getting like the Alien soundtrack on like vinyl or something. I'm sure that exists. So I was Googling and it was like Alien from 1978 or some shit. I'm like, that was like 40 years ago. Like, goddamn. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm getting old. Life is fleeting. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm an opportunist. Sorry, guys.
Pokemon products, to polarizing debates on social media about who should or shouldn't have access to cards, this was an extremely contentious and divisive issue for many, and one of the leading reasons why so many people consider the community to be toxic. The ability to have civil discussions and empathize with others' feelings, rather than immediately resorting to an us versus them mentality of victimhood and gatekeeping, has unfortunately been the exception and not the norm. Personally, I don't fault people for seeing a financial opportunity and wanting to take advantage of it. However, it's always been my opinion that Pokemon's long-term interests are best served when cards remain relevant and accessible to younger generations. Perhaps it's my own background as a kid enjoying and experiencing Pokemon with my friends growing up, but it's those experiences that matter the most to me and what has kept me interested in Pokemon all these years later. And it's my hope that the younger generations get to share in those same experiences. I guess the point is that any thriving industry will experience its share of opportunists. It's really unavoidable, at least until the market cools off.
I didn't really think about this till recently, but it's pretty unique that a card game is generational. That Pokemon really, I mean, it's changed over the years, but it's literally generational. Like, we have dads who collected cards, and now their kids are collecting cards. I feel like, even with like Yu-Gi-Oh, for instance, I'm sure there's some kids that collect Yu-Gi-Oh, but I feel like most people who collect Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays, I could be wrong about this because I don't know a whole lot about Yu-Gi-Oh, but I feel like most people who collect Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays are people who played Yu-Gi-Oh when it first came out. and people who saw the show when it first came out. And I don't know if there's like a current Yu-Gi-Oh show, but I feel like it's kind of the same for a lot of card games. And I feel like Pokemon is fairly unique that it's stayed relevant this long and it's still as popular as it is. And it's like super multi-generational. And that's why I was actually really happy that they announced that there's going to be a Pikachu in the new series, because I thought getting rid of Ash is a terrible idea, because and then I thought, okay, well, if they're going to move on from Ash, they still got to keep Pikachu as the figurehead, because like that is the glue. Pikachu is the glue to the last 25 years of Pokemon. Is Pikachu being the figurehead of Pokemon. So I'm glad that Pikachu is still going to be involved, because Pikachu is literally the glue. It's like the most popular Pokemon, the most recognized Pokemon to literally everyone, and has been the mascot of Pokemon for the last 25 years. It would be so stupid of them to move on from Pikachu, so I'm glad that they're not. I'm really glad that they announced that Pikachu is going to play a decently large part in the new anime, even if we're going to get new characters. I used to love playing Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day. Probably too complicated for me nowadays. We'll be grabbing the 25th anniversary booster boxes. Yeah, that's an interesting one. They do reprint quite a lot, but I feel like the 25th anniversary boxes sound pretty cool. Yu-Gi-Oh's 2 power creep for new players. I don't know what that means because I don't play card games. But yeah, I just feel like and this is one thing that I feel like one thing that I think about when I think about Pokemon is kids are extremely important to this hobby. Extremely important to this hobby. And whereas they're not important to other card games today, and not necessarily Yu-Gi-Oh, but like Marvel cards, Star Wars cards, like there are card games or cards, collectible cards that are out there that are not marketed towards kids at all. And the accessibility of those boxes and the stuff where you can actually get decent hits they're so inaccessible to a child that Pokemon has always stayed accessible. They've always had $4 packs, or $4.50 packs at Target hanging on the, thing. Like, that's important to a game's longevity. And I actually worry about the longevity of, like, Marvel cards and Star Wars cards and stuff like that, because although the IPs are massive, like, are people going to care about the cards 20 years from now? Because if kids aren't getting into the cards because they can't, because they're too expensive, then are they actually going to, how does the future for those cards look without, children adopting them into their collectibles, into their binders? But yeah, I just think the kids are really important. And if we, during this time, it was definitely adults buying everything up because there wasn't enough supply, and a lot of cards not getting into the hands of kids. So I'm glad that we've gotten back to the point where, like, most of the times when I go into Target, there's something available for someone to buy, and it's not completely empty every time I go in because someone's gone in and bought everything out because they're keeping it in a closet or they're selling it on eBay to make money. Power creep just means the cards get stronger over time. Same thing as evolution Charizard being buffed compared to base set Charizard. Okay, interesting. I love playing modern Yu-Gi-Oh even though I get wrecked often. Does Yu-Gi-Oh have an online game just like Pokemon does? Like the online PTCGO or whatever? Just got a limited edition Dark Magician card. An Adidas collab. Is Dark Magician wearing Adidas sneakers? That would be sick. They should definitely do that. Master Duel is the online game. Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Perhaps it's not their presence,
all right,
but our
we're going to move
response
from
to them
opportunist
that determines whether or not
into
a community
the
is
next thing,
toxic.
whatever that happens to be.
Like Ash, we can allow our anger to taint our hearts and
What's
then
the next one?
lash out at others.
Drama.
Or we can reflect on ourselves
The
and
juicy
decide
stuff.
what we can do to better ourselves and our community around us. Finally, we have the drama makers, or those in the Pokemon space that have an obsession with controversy and calling out others for their perceived misdeeds or approaches to collecting. Now, this is a pretty diverse group of people, including those drawing legitimate attention to actual scams,
There's a
passing
lot of
moral
different
judgment on others after
types
only
of
assuming their
drama
motives,
in this space.
and those who inherently
That's what I've
distort
started
facts
figuring
and take
out.
statements out of context to slander those that they simply don't like. But the tricky part is that these three forms of drama aren't always easy to distinguish for the viewer or even for the creator. Unfortunately, drama has become an increasingly prevalent form of entertainment in the Pokemon space and can prove quite lucrative to the influencers and channels who focus on this type of content. Now, I generally try to stay out of the various...
You know what's always the worst, too? It's always the worst. The worst is that the drama channels, because they're react channels and because they're shitting on the big guys, like they're calling out Rev for his mystery packs or calling out Leonhardt for, wanting to talk to his community about his mental health issues. Like, because people decide to attack the guys at the top, like, those channels always get decent views. And it sucks. It sucks that the drama gets placed above, like, genuine creators that want to actually make good, informative content. And, like, just because you're willing to shit on, like, Leonhardt and Pokerev and these other people and put them in your thumbnails and titles and try and make a drama video about them, like, you're going to get views because of that, because you're choosing to shit on somebody else. The negative drama stuff always gets clicks, and it's just irritating to me because I don't think it does anything fruitful for the hobby at all. Yeah.
Controversies and personal dramas that exist in this space. Some are quite petty and unproductive, and they almost always lead to unnecessary division within the community. However, when reflecting on the question, is the Pokemon community toxic, I think the normalization of infighting and the villainization of those we disagree with in the community is perhaps the greatest contributing factor to this perception.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different areas in this community that can create us versus them, like, tribe mentalities, right? It's like, oh, I like this grading company and you like that grading company. Well, you're dumb for liking that grading company. This is the only grading company. Or, modern is the best stuff. And if you're buying WotC, you're a moron. And you need to be buying sealed product and putting it in your closet. Or, modern sealed product is dumb and a waste of time. I've definitely not made that video before. And you need to be buying vintage stuff, or Japanese is the best. It's the first. It's the best, and English is just reprints and like all this stuff. And it's like some of it is just funny stuff, some of it is jokes, but there are some people that seriously believe the shit, and then they spread the shit, and then communities form around that shit, and then that shit becomes a part of the community. And then there's just a lot of us versus them stuff that starts to occur. And there's so much of that throughout the kind of the YouTube space in this hobby and the different communities and stuff of like, what's the best way to do X? What's the worst way to do Y? And this is why you suck because you do Y. And it's just like, why? If X is working for that person and Y is working for that person, then why does it matter? Like, it doesn't matter. Just do your thing and they'll do their thing and just be happy that we're all just into Pokemon. Like, let's just do that. Drama channels are a catch-22. If you punch up, you're going to get views. If you punch down, you're undeniably an asshole. True. That's very true. Yeah, that's very true. Is it bad to call out Leonhardt scam mystery box? Most of what's inside those boxes are junk slabs. Are they really $300? I don't think they're $300, right? I haven't seen the $300 ones. I saw Ryan open, like, was it $50 ones or something like that? They were like $50 packs, and he had a couple that were close to 50 and a couple that were 25. I mean, you can make the same, like, you can literally make the exact same argument for Pokerev's mystery packs, right? It's like Pokerev's mystery packs, the majority of people that are going to buy them are going to get 6 modern packs worth $3 to $4 a piece. They spend $50 on it, and so they get, they get half the price. There are some people that are going to hit, $10 packs. There are some people that are going to hit $100 packs. But ultimately, like, Pokerev's mystery packs, although he is much more, maybe much more transparent about what's inside of them, they're still, like, gambling to a certain extent, or an increased amount of gambling. than just buying a regular pack at the store. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. If ultimately, if you make a mystery pack and you put your name on a mystery pack, you know, someone's going to call you out for it, or someone's going to say that you're not providing enough value, because that's what mystery boxes are. Mystery boxes are literally created to make money off of the majority of people who aren't going to make their money back and who just spent $50 on $24 worth of packs, and the you put one or two $100 packs in, or you seed them, one in every 50 is gonna get a vintage pack or whatever, and you make 300 of them. You're still making money off of all the people that kind of got screwed playing into your game, even though you're giving out $100 to $200 packs in like 2 or 3 of the mystery boxes or whatever. So mystery boxes are a crapshoot no matter who makes them. So I think it's I don't know. I think you need to do it fairly, and obviously certain people are friends with certain people, so people are gonna punch up in one direction and not the other because of who they associate themselves with. I think it's a little hypocritical, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, he's got to make a profit. If he's going to be making them, he's got to make a profit. That's just how it goes. How's it going, Max? Welcome. Let's continue.
On the one hand, it propagates the us versus them mentality mentioned earlier, but it also redirects the attention and focus from all of the positive things our community has to offer, which is quite a bit, at least in my experience.
I'm not saying all drama is bad or people shouldn't be called out. I think if you're gonna call someone out, you should obviously have enough to back up your claim. I think a lot of people that make these drama videos, they just see a thing, and then the reason why they're calling them out doesn't have enough thought behind it to justify it. They just call them out because they know that in this moment I can call out this person so that I can get views. And if I don't do it now, then people are going to move on, so I got to do it now, and I'm not actually going to think my position out thoroughly enough to make a good argument as to why this person is a piece of shit or whatever, or to why we shouldn't be doing this, right? We shouldn't be opening stolen product. We shouldn't be, sending stolen product off for grading and then selling it or whatever. So, my opinion, videos and people's ideas should be thought out before they just regurgitate them out into the space. But most drama channels have to get stuff up immediately, when the drama happens, or else nobody's going to care a week later, because that's just how it works. If I do something that's worth someone making a video about, anyone's only going to care about it for a week or two at most, and then everyone's just going to move on. So there's an inherent timing with drama shit that doesn't allow these ideas to formulate well enough to make into a video, in my opinion. Sometimes I'm so late to making videos on certain topics that people have been talking about, because I want to make sure that I understand what my thoughts are on it before I make the video, putting it out to other people. So I was 2 months late on talking about Moonbryon when Moonbryon was hot, and it just so happens that Moonbryon's been hot the whole time. It's not a stream without talking about Moonbryon. But yeah, I don't think it's always bad to call out people when they do shitty things. But I think that there's stuff that's worth calling out, and then there's stuff that's just stuff that you're just doing it to shit on somebody. And the two things are very different, in my opinion. Moonbryon's overrated. I mean, I think it's pretty overpriced, in my opinion, especially the Black Label, but I'm not a buyer for that card, so I wouldn't know, personally. I'm not buying it. That's all I'll say.
We've seen Pokemon collectors and enthusiasts rally together to host social events, raise money for charity, mentor younger aspiring collectors, offer helpful resources and advice to the masses, and provide a sense of belonging to all those who feel connected to Pokemon in some way.
Dude, you guys remember when you guys remember when Real Breaking Nate did that video? You remember that kid that had to sell his collection to save his dying cat or something? Was it a cat or a dog? There was a kid, it was in the news. There was a kid that had to sell his Pokemon card collection to like for like a surgery or something for like his cat or his dog or something. Like it was a pet of some sort. And then Real Breaking Nate like flew down there and brought him like a whole shitload of Pokemon cards to like open up or whatever, to like refill his collection that he used to like save his pet. And like that type of shit is the stuff that should be championed, not, you know, Leonhardt's latest video that I didn't like, you know, stuff like that. So, but typically, even in the news and all those different places, typically that's not how it happens. Typically, the negative shit floats to the top and the positive shit gets shoved to the bottom, and then everyone comes out negative, which kind of sucks. But
muck in the hobby, and it shouldn't be ignored, but I don't understand the point of allowing such negativity to consume us and define our entire experience. And that's a simple truth of life. Our experience is dictated not by the circumstances around us, but by the attitude we choose in spite of those circumstances. So perhaps the question, is the Pokemon community toxic, is best answered by looking inwardly at ourselves rather than outwardly at others. There's no denying that there are a number of toxic elements that exist within our community, but these elements only define our culture as much as we allow them to. And if those elements do bother you, simply don't feed into them. Or even better yet, find a way to actively promote the things you are passionate about. Those are the types of efforts that make the community a more vibrant and accepting place for everyone. In my opinion, the scammers, the opportunists, and drama makers are not representative of my experience as a collector or a creator here on YouTube. Like anyone, I've certainly received my share of criticism and insulting comments here on YouTube. I'm sure I'll get some on this video. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, the good that I've experienced in this community far outweighs the bad. The friendships I've made, the memories I've shared,
yourself for a
the
long
experiences
stream.
I've had.
I just got the sales breakdown next, and then
every year I rewatch I Choose You on Pokemon
we'll
Day.
see how long
I really
that
should
goes.
just buy it instead of renting it each time. But anyway, that nightmare sequence of Ash forgetting about Pikachu only gets more and more poignant with each viewing.
Once again,
it
man,
serves as a visual representation
with
of the
a
choice that we all
positive,
face in our own
solid
lives.
video.
Do we allow our negative emotions
I think this was a
to
good
corrupt our
one.
hearts and blind us to the wonderful
It's a good way of
things in life
addressing the
that we often
topic
take
without
for granted?
creating more
Or do we awaken our
toxicity.
hearts and choose to be the best versions of ourselves? I'm Pokemon Classics, and I thank you for joining me with this one. Let me know your thoughts on the subject down in the comments below. And, of course, I hope you all had an amazing Pokemon Day. Until next time, everybody, don't forget to enjoy collecting and have fun. After all, that's why we're here. See you, everybody.
I think, too, a lot of the people who are toxic online, they absolutely wouldn't be toxic in person. Like, they'll talk all the shit online. When you meet them in person, they'll be like the nicest person ever. And it's like, dude, why? Why are you like this online? Why are you such a dickhead online? And you're like the nicest dude in person. Like, what the hell? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people decide to kind of play that role and become a part of the toxicity. But I'm here for the heart of the cards. Yeah. Leonhardt is a positive force for the hobby, for sure. I feel like in the last like year or two he's been going through stuff, and probably because he's watching Rev like just absolutely skyrocket into the void. But when I streamed on Twitch, I streamed for 5 years, basically got nowhere. And so I watched a lot of people around me, like friends of mine, people who came into the stream and started their own streams. I watched a lot of people around me like just grow way faster than I did. And a lot of times you internalize that and you say, okay, something's wrong with me, something's wrong with my content, something's wrong with the way that I'm doing things. And that can turn into like a real depression that can hit, as well as like not wanting to do it anymore or falling out of love with, it. So when that happens, I think that when that happens, it's probably better. I don't know. It's always a tough choice on whether or not you share it with your community, right? Because in one way, your community is like the people who... Is anyone else seeing that, or is that just on my end? Because I'm seeing it in this chat, but I'm not seeing it in this chat. Hold on. Am I gonna have to make a mod? I think this person was in Catch 'em All Collectibles chat. Yeah. I mean, a person's content can not be for you, and that's totally fine. But perpetuating this idea that, you know, Leonhardt is like not a negative force for the hobby, I think it's just not true. I think for the most part, he's a positive force. Some of his content is not for me. A lot of his content is not for me. But ultimately, I think he does good. So, and he's been doing good for a long time. He's been in the hobby a long time. But yeah, I can definitely see why that can be put you in a state of depression, put you in a state of you feel like you're not enough anymore. The stuff you're doing is not connecting with people, that you are the problem. And then choosing to kind of outwardly talk to your community about it can be a positive and a negative, because some people can look at you and say, oh, you're just complaining, blah, blah, blah. Look at, you get 100,000 views for video. Why are you bitching? And then the other part of people are supportive of you, right? But then you see all the negative things, and it just puts you on an even, more downward spiral. And I feel like in that situation, I think you definitely... it's a tough decision whether or not you bring it up with your community or not. And he chose to, and I feel like that's what happened. He got a lot of people that said, why is Leonhardt bitching? He gets, this many thousands of views per video and blah, blah, blah. And instead of, kind of realizing where he's at and, trying to look at it in a relative sense to his position, instead of from our position saying, why I want to be where he is, and he's complaining about it, so screw him. It's like, that's just kind of a reductive way of looking at it, in my opinion. So yeah. But yeah, I think the guys at the top are, I don't even know. I just feel like it's those two. I don't watch a lot of Unlisted Leaf. Is Unlisted Leaf still doing his thing? And I guess Real Breaking Nate would definitely be Real Breaking Nate's over 1 million subs, right? He's got a big channel as well. I feel like those guys at the top are actually all really positive people, which is good. I'm glad that there isn't like a drama farmer like at the top of the hobby in terms of content creation. But I guess for a while it was Logan Paul, unfortunately, but yeah, that shit happens. All right. Moving on, guys. Do you want to know about my monthly sales breakdown? I don't know. I've got a bunch of different chats going on right now, and I'm trying to figure out if there's a thing that I need to do or not. Or I guess I can do it later. I don't want to. I don't want to make anyone a mod, because I don't want to force people to actually work during my streams. I feel like in a lot of other chats, moderation is like the occasional person gets the axe. And my moderation would probably be a little more heavy-handed, depending on what's going on. But yeah, not a huge fan of asking for free shit. So don't do that. Unlisted Leaf hasn't been the same since his Stock X debacle. You haven't viewed him the same, or he hasn't been the same? Because that's two very different things. But yeah, I could understand how people, wouldn't view him the same after that. Selling the packs at like a crazy amount of money or whatever he was doing during that. But yeah. I think you only need mods when you have more than 100 live viewers. You'd be surprised. Oh, he took a break? Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. He's been on a lot of the... I think he went to Charlotte Collecticon last year, and I think he goes to a lot of the like the Collecticons and stuff, which is nice. I want... what's his face? I watch Cold Ones. What is that guy's name? I want him to come back to opening cards, but I don't know if he ever will. He's always taking like these giant breaks and stuff, but he's so fucking funny. Max Mofo. Yeah. I do watch Cold Ones though. Cold Ones is hilarious. Cold Ones is like if I want to like revert to my like 12-year-old self and watch watch like Dumb and Dumber um be be idiots for 20 minutes. It's like hilarious, just a hilarious but yeah, I like cold ones. It's funny stuff. Okay, numbers time. You guys want to look at some numbers? Let's do it. All right, let's talk about numbers. I'm done talking about drama. Wrong one. Wrong one. Why is there two? Oh, it's on the wrong screen. Shoot, hold on. Hold up. This? Here we go. All right, here we go. Guys, yes, let's do it. Numbers time. All right, so we're going to be talking all about my February. Talking about stuff that sold well, stuff that didn't sell well. Yeah, all that stuff. All right. So let's go into this. So the first section here is my flipping. So my flipping is basically the stuff that I get in from Japan, I send off to grade, and when I get that stuff back to grade, I sell and I flip. And I've had quite a fairly large inventory since December of last year that I've been working through kind of month after month. And so we're going to go through, we're going to see what cards sold well, what cards sold poorly, where I made the most money, and how much I made overall. Obviously, you guys can see a lot of the overall numbers already. We had over $2,000 in profit. So we had $2,033 in profit, overall profit for the month. And let's jump in, take a look at some of these. So some of the cards that did the best, obviously the PSA 10s of kind of these mid-era holos. So we had a PSA 10 Venusaur that sold for $115 or profit for $115. Anything over 100, we had a PSA 10 Rayquaza. This is the DPBP 442. Kind of a nasty looking Rayquaza, but it's a Rayquaza nonetheless. $109 in profit. We had a PSA 10 Charizard. This is I think I have another one, but this is, oh shit, what's it called? Platinum Arceus Charizard. This is the Platinum Arceus Holo Charizard. You can see that we had a profit of $157 on that. Then we had the Charizard Level X. This is the deck promo from Japan, PSA 10. That one profited $273. And we had another Rayquaza. This was the Holland Phantoms Rayquaza Holo that got a PSA 10. Shouldn't have got a PSA 10. This thing had enough whitening that it probably should have got a 9, but new back Japanese, so that's always helpful. We had $489 profit on that because I got the card for $43 raw, which is pretty badass. And it sold for $650. It's pretty crazy. The Glaceon Level X from Dondash, I believe. That one got the PSA 10. That sold for nearly $250 for a profit of $166. And then this Dark Tyranitar. This actually comes from a deck, I believe, in Japanese. It is the Rocket Dark Tyranitar with the kind of reverse holo on it. It's really cool, but this one sold for $183 with a profit of $122. So those were our bigger hitters. Let's take a look at the cards that did not do so well. So we had a few that didn't even hit $10 profit. We had a CGC 8.5 Jirachi. This is a really nice Jirachi card. I actually really like this. Unfortunately, it did hit the 8.5, so it sold for only $30, and I actually lost 84 cents on this sale. But honestly, close to breaking even on a card that is that hit lower than I would have expected it to, getting the 8.5. And these typically I wouldn't send these mid-era Japanese cards, especially if they look really clean, to CGC. But these CGC cards that I sent in were sent in because it was before Denver last year, and I wanted to have some stock for Denver. So I sent him into CGC to get him back before the convention where PSA was going to take longer. And then I ended up not going to Denver, so I ended up getting stuck with a lot of these CGC slabs. So, but we did have the 8.5 Jirachi lost me nearly $1. So not so bad, but it did lose. PSA 9 Deoxys. This is a diamond pearl hollow Deoxys. I forget what set this is from, but this sold for $40 in a CG, or this is PSA 9. So a lot of these mid-era hollows, depending on the Pokemon, like Charizard's in 9s do well, Rayquaza's in 9s do well, but something like a Deoxys or a Luxray or a Swampert, one of those Pokemon, isn't going to, overall be as good if it hits that 9. You're really hoping for 10s on a lot of these. So this one sold for $40, and I only profited $4, $3.91. We have a Vaporeon. I think this is Golden Sun Silvery Sky or whatever it is. I think that one got the 8 at CGC, so it did sell for $40, and I only made $4 or, almost $5 on that one. And then this one down here was a Meganium that got a PSA 10. Wait, really? No shot. I sold a PSA 10 Meganium for $40. It is Meganium. Not exactly the most sought after Pokemon, but yeah, so this one made $10. So probably not going to buy that card again. If a 10 is only going to sell for $40. Probably not the best one to buy a second time. For some reason, I feel like this isn't right, but it might be. So yeah, did really well on a lot of kind of my mid-era hollows and level X's and stuff, especially the PSA 10s. I will say that most of the PSA 10s sold to Chinese buyers. They're still buying up the PSA 10 Japanese cards. A lot of these cards get sent to GSP to be sent overseas. Yeah. So a lot of those Chinese buyers still buying up Japanese PSA 10s. They're doing some good stuff for me. But ultimately, I only sold 22 cards, which isn't really that much work, and I profited over $2,000 this month. So that's a pretty big W. Pretty good month. Very similar to last month. Last month, I think I sold like 24, 25 cards, somewhere around there, and profited or like $3,000, I think, somewhere around there. So, but now we'll move on from the flipping. We'll move down to the booth. So the booth is the comic book shop. I have a booth. I sell things locally. I supply that booth with singles and some accessories. And then those things sell. The booth rent is $100 a month, and the consignment fee is 10%. So I pay $100 a month to have the booth up there, and they take 10% of my overall sales. So, we can go through and see what has sold so far, or this month. This did way better than I thought it was going to. I did not think that we were going to get anywhere near $1,000 worth of sales. I just kind of hoped that I would be able to eclipse the cost of my rent. And me and the comic book shop guy were super surprised that we hit almost $1,000 worth of sales. I think this did really well because there is no other place in my area that does Pokemon singles. So I've kind of cornered the market on, kids that want to just outright buy like a V or V Max or some of those like lower cost cards. And on top of that, I'm able to provide not only the modern cards, but I'm also able to provide some vintage cards via that collection that I sold or that I bought last month. So I'll show you guys. Hold on. Here we have modern English singles were $229 of the sales. Vintage English singles were $421. Typically, these were cards that were in the little case that's on the tabletop. I put cards that are $20 or more in that case, and I think there's one or two buyers that come in weekly and pick up, between $50 to $100 worth of cards. That's one thing that's great about having like a physical location like this is people come in like weekly. They come in all the time. There's a lot of repeat customers. I got one guy who's coming in to buy a graded slab like every week that his daughter does well on like grades or something to reward her. So I'll be supplying that guy with graded cards once a week. I got guys that are constantly checking in for the vintage singles. I got people that really like, the modern English singles. I think the singles are just doing really well for me right now. We also have the Japanese, which is not doing as well. It's $102. Now, these cards are cards that were rejects from my grading pile. So a lot of those get put into the binder, and then those get sold locally, which is nice to not have to list those raw and try and sell them on eBay. I'm not a big fan of trying to sell raw cards on eBay. I feel like there's always the discrepancy between, what's near mint, what's LP, and I'm not really confident putting like an actual designation description, condition description on the cards because I don't know. I don't know. I have too much experience with TCG Player, I think, to confidently say that I have any idea what a near mint card should be, because I don't think they do, and they have thousands of feedback. Um, Modern bulk singles. So this has been doing way better than I thought it would. So this is literally just a 5 row of bulk cards that I put 4 for $1 on anything that's not hollow and 2 for $1 on hollow cards. And those have sold $111 already. That's way better than I thought that was going to do at all. I really didn't expect much to come out of that whatsoever, but I think that either people are buying those cards for their young kids so that they can come in kind of weekly and pick up some cards for the kids, or people are trying to complete decks and do that stuff. That has been like way better than I thought, just because it's just modern bulk. Like if I were to put that 5 row into a priority shipping box, it'd probably be like $40, or $60 or somewhere around there and I've already made over 100 and I still have an insane amount of bulk just sitting up there. So this has done a lot better than I thought. Accessories. So these are those ETB sleeves. I do have a little thing just full of different ETB sleeves. I sell them for $4 a piece. So I've sold 5 packs of those sleeves. And then I have sold a couple graded cards. Definitely not as much interest around the graded cards, but a little bit of interest from, like I said, that guy who wants to reward his daughter every week, or some other people asking about stuff, but not really a whole lot of interest in graded. Mostly people are buying singles at this point. But 2 of the cards that were up there did sell, which was pretty awesome. So yeah, overall $748 of profit after the rent for the booth and the 10% consignment fee. So overall, that way better than I thought it was going to be. I keep saying it, but for some reason, I just had this idea that if I made $100 a month, that would be sick. And yeah, it just has turned into something that I didn't expect. So that's been pretty awesome. And last but not least, I see that once I jumped into the spreadsheet, everybody went silent. We have the collection. So this is the collection that I bought last month for 10 grand, and I've been slowly chipping away and making the money back. So the total cost of the collection was $10,000. And I sent these cards that sold. I sent a lot of cards into CGC, but I sent, obviously, these are the ones that have sold so far. Some of the big cards that you can see, most of them are big cards. So I didn't put a cost to these cards yet, but I am just judging the, minus the fees and everything. I'm just putting that against the profit. So the amount that I'm profiting is just going against the total profit or the total cost of the collection total. So I have sold 10 cards. Is that correct? 11 cards. My bad. 11 cards. And I have made back about $1,300 of the $10,000 collection cost. I haven't sold any of the packs. And I still have a lot of cards. I think I have about $6,000 to $7,000 in value in the CGC cards that I still have to sell, and then on top of that, I have over 10 grand in pack cost. I think somewhere around there. So we still have a lot to sell from this, but I'm trying to take it slow so that I don't overextend into anything. A lot of the vintage singles here came from this collection as well. it's harder for me to keep track of what came from this collection or not. So I'm not really basing, judging or putting this number into here, even though these cards most likely came out of this collection. So this collection will this graph will basically only be the graded cards and the packs. Eventually, this will grow into that. So one thing that I thought was interesting that I want to go through is there's common sentiment that if you grade with CGC, you won't make as much, or your cards won't sell for as high as a PSA equivalent. So what I did, which I thought would be interesting, was I went through and for every one of the sales here for the CGC card, I tried to find a comp that was close as an equivalent in PSA. So, so the Suicune EX, for instance, an 8 of the Suicune EX, that mine was a 7.5, sold. There were two comps, 284 and 294. I sold mine for 212.50. So it was a little bit less, but the grade was also a little bit less. The reverses, the Magikarp and the Gyarados, were 140 and 180. The comps I could find were 144 and 208. Now, these are for 8.5s, and the two comps that I found were PSA 8s, but fairly similar in terms of sale price there. The 9 Blastoise, this is the Hollow Blastoise from the E series. I forget which Expedition, I think. Mine sold for $525. The closest comps were 2 PSA 9 comps that sold for $450. So I actually made a lot more from my CGC sale. Now, these comps could have been really old. I didn't keep track of what the dates of the comps were, so the price may have just risen on the card. But those are the two comps that I could find that were most recent for a PSA 9. I could be wrong. I also looked at these. Like a week or two ago, I think, is when I put together this graph. So there could be more comps. That's just what I found at that time. We have a CGC 9 non-hollow Flareon from Skyridge, I think. And this sold for $37.50. And the two comps that I found in PSA 9 were 31 and 50. So we're in the range. The Sabrina's Gengar, this sold for 110. And the comps for a PSA 8 were 130 and 135. So this was a little bit less at a 0.5 of a higher grade. We had the Dark Tyranitar Reverse Hollow. This sold for 114 in an 8.5. And I found 8s all around the board. So I saw one that sold for 75, one that sold for 170, and one that sold for 110. So we're kind of in that range again for a slightly higher grade, 0.5 higher grade. The Scyther EX did end up getting a CGC 8, and that sold for 70, and the comps for a PSA 8 were 66 and 76, so that sold for around the same. The Blastoise Reverse, I think this is an Expedition Reverse, I believe, sold for 90. The comps were 80, 92, and 120 in a similar grade. Ninetales Reverse, this was a Legendary Collection Reverse, sold for 166. And the last two PSA 8s that I could see were 103 and 106. So this one sold for more, but again, the comps may have been old comps. And I sell all my cards via buy it nows. So you have to think some of these comps are probably auction comps. And we all know that auctions typically, I'll just say typically, underperform versus buy it nows. So some of these comps could be auctions, and so they might be underperforming in comparison. And then we have Mewtwo. This was a 6.5 Expedition Mewtwo, I think, hollow. It sold for 117, and the comps was a PSA 6 for 110 and a PSA 7 for 180. So, in my opinion, at this point, I'm not really losing out at this point. Maybe a little bit here and there, depending on the card. There are a couple 8.5s that are performing more like 8s, but we all know that PSA doesn't really give 8.5. So I kind of feel like a CGC 8.5 selling for a PSA 8 kind of makes sense. We all know that they're probably not going to sell for PSA 9 prices because, it's 9 versus 8.5. I mean, that's a big difference in people's minds of just number higher, caveman brain. But yeah, I was just interested to see, because I made that decision, people questioned that decision when I made it at the time. And I feel like so far I'm doing fairly decently in what the cards are selling for versus what some of the recent comps for PSA are also selling for. Obviously, this is a small sample size. I think that what do you call it? The rate at which they would sell might be higher, maybe. I mean, I can't really tell because I don't have two cards of the exact same grade in different companies, so I can't say which one would sell first over the other. But we do know that if you look at like Terapeak or those like search engine stuff on eBay, you can see that obviously PSA Pokemon is searched a lot more than CGC Pokemon. So overall, PSA cards are probably getting more eyes than CGC cards are. But so far, I've been doing pretty well in terms of what cards are selling for versus what cards would sell for or have sold for at the other company, which I thought was an interesting little thing to just take a look at. So this month was actually really solid. I wish I would have sold maybe more of the collection cards because that number is still really big, and I want it to go down as quickly as possible. But I haven't started selling the packs yet, and the packs are going to be, the packs are kind of expensive, but I just have to figure out the best way that I want to do that. Right now, I have some packs at grading, and depending on what grades those packs get, I may be sending more packs in for grading, or I will just be basically like putting the weights on the backs of the packs, listing them on eBay, and hoping for the best. Or maybe I can send him to Rusty or something. Maybe I can reach back out to Rusty. I think I irritated him with my first message. So, but yeah, it'd be cool if someone wanted to consign those and sell them off and rip them on a stream. I obviously don't have the following to do that, but it'd be cool if someone like Rusty wanted to. So yeah, that's been my February sales breakdown. I'm pretty happy with everything at this point. Obviously, there was a lot more stuff that sold. What was the card that sold for $650? The card that sold for $650 was a PSA 10 Holland Phantoms Rayquaza. Sold for $650 to a Chinese buyer. That guy was interesting. He bought it, and then he messaged me and was like, hey, can you take care of, like, the custom fees? And I was like, no. And then he just paid for it. So I was like, oh, okay, well. Oh, well. That was the highest selling item. Second highest selling item was the PSA 10 Charizard Level X. That sold for $375. All of these are best offer. If you look at my feedback, I don't think I've had a card sell for a listed price in a long time. Everyone that sends me an offer gets a counter offer, unless you get automatically denied because your offer's too low. That happens. But typically, most of my cards sell via best offer. I'm always willing to come down a little bit. And I think that kind of helps me move product. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. How are you guys' Februaries? Are you guys selling? Are you guys buying? What are you guys doing? I'm trying to get more into the Found a Mint Charizard Level X for $20 on my cart. Yeah. So I bought it in a lot. I bought the Deck Hollow and the Level X in a lot together, and it was like $40 for both of them. And they both, the Deck Hollow got CGC 9, I think. So that paid for the lot, and then the Charizard hit a 10, which was pretty insane. Hey Retro, how's it going? What'd you miss? You missed the entire spiel. The entire thing is over now. Yeah, I got lucky on that one. I did buy another combination recently and it didn't work out as well. So that was unfortunate, but sometimes you get lucky. Waiting on the PSA submission, sending off another one. Nice. Crawdad, are you sending off mostly modern stuff at the minute, or are you sending off combination of modern and vintage, or what? What are you doing? What are you doing? Retro. I hear you had a big weekend at Collecticon. Obviously, you don't have to spoil anything if you're going to be making like a video or anything, but I heard through the grapevine that you did very well. um, did you talk TCG's? Yeah. I yeah, we kind of talked the TCG Classic. I was gonna watch a video on it, but I just kind of realized that I feel like we talked about everything that we knew, and we did talk about the toxicity. We watched a Pokemon Classics video on toxicity in the hobby, so that was we kind of reacted to that, but we talked a little bit about stuff. I try to not be too specific about anything. Um, but yeah, I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, I'm trying to hit that point where I'm trying to kind of get into the volume game a little bit. So I want to go from I want to do both. So obviously if I keep doing this and I keep making, a few thousand a month, that would be amazing on top of like my normal job and everything. I mean, I'm killing it, right? Like, pat myself on the back, I guess, a little bit. I'm doing very well in that regard. I would like to kind of get into the volume game where I'm like making more kind of high volume plays on maybe some lower cost stuff and some stuff that would really sell quickly. And then, because if you could sell like 5 of the same card and you make 20, bucks on each and you paid, I don't know, $5 a piece for them, like those types of plays where it's like you can make $100 per cards on these types of sales, but if you can make like a little bit, kind of more stable and regular plays where you can just kind of buy a bunch of near mint, modern cards and make like $10 a card and then or $20 a card or whatever, and not have to worry about like spending hours on buy all the time trying to find like mint mid era stuff. Although I like doing that, obviously, so I'm gonna keep doing that, but I have kind of felt like that the mid era market on Mercari and Bai itself is not great. I feel like I'm not finding as much stuff as I did before. Like the play is not necessarily drying up, but I feel like there might be more competition out there definitely for certain Pokemon. So yeah, it's becoming more harder to find kind of minty mid era stuff. But I'm still trying. We're doing our best. Occasionally, I have to pay up if the condition looks good. Occasionally, I pay a little bit more than I normally would. But I feel like prices are just going to naturally kind of go up as more people are trying to do it. So if I keep going up and I feel confident about it, then it should be all right. I do have a full-time job. Yeah. Yep, I am a web designer for a company. So I make a salary on top of the Pokemon stuff that I do, which is good. Just good. I think most people who sell and like flip and do stuff with cards like this always, your dream is to be able to do it full time and to the full time job can go away and this becomes your full time job and you just are deep in it and you do everything you need to do to make it work and all that stuff. But I don't know when or if that time will ever happen, but it would be pretty cool if someday it did. But yeah, I try not to think about it too much. Stresses me out, but maybe someday, maybe someday. But yeah, I do have a full time job. Um, sold some stuff back in Switzerland this February. Did really well. Bought a few German Hardcore Soul Silver packs. Those are dirt cheap. Makes for a fun opening. Yeah, that would be fun. Hardcore Soul Silver are some cool sets. I like buying cards from them, from those sets. Recently, I've bought some stuff from Sun and Moon Era. I do have a PSA return coming back hopefully this week. It's got a lot of PSA 10s. I think I hit like a 84% PSA 10 rate or something like that. So my pre-grading did me well. On that, we've got a lot of Sun and Moon, full art Tay team stuff like that in that submission, as well as some mid-era stuff that did well. So I'm excited to get that back. I can start listing that. Hopefully, get some stuff from that submission sold as well. And I got a bunch of stuff coming in from Japan. Hopefully, in the next couple days too. I have another lot of cards. I sent out a submission because I thought, because PSA didn't announce that they were extending until literally the day that it was supposed to stop. I sent out a submission, I don't know, a few days before it was ending, and now I'll have a bunch more stuff to send out, so just submission after submission. Killing it with these PSA subs. Yeah, I mean, I buy a lot of cards, and I would say, it's like between 60 and 70% of the cards end up going to PSA. And I guess just however I pre-grade tends to work. I don't know how else to say it. I made a video about how I pre-grade, and then I kind of watched it and I was like, yeah, it's kind of just like, look at the card. No, I mean, I try to not send anything that is dented or has, big scratches. I try not to send anything that has whitening, visible whitening. I try not to, like, just the very obvious things. I try to send things that are fairly well centered. Like, it's like, it's kind of obvious when you think about it, like the things that you should be looking for. When it starts to come down to the nitty gritty of like, oh, is this going to get an 8? Is this going to get a 7? It's like, I don't really send cards that I'm worried about getting 7s and 8s. And when they do, I'm like, I wonder why that got a 7 or an 8. But I think I got 2 8s and 2 8s and 5 9s, and then 35 10s in my last submission of 42 cards. So we did good. We hit the 8s on cards that I wish would have hit 10s. But we hit 10s on some cards that I was not expecting. So we hit a 10 on a Feraligatr Prime card. That was pretty nice. Because apparently those are really expensive. I think I bought it for like $3 or some bullshit. How much did I spend on that card? I swear I think I bought it for like $3 and I hit a PSA 10. Feraligatr. Feraligatr Prime. $8.29. What I spent on it. And it hit the PSA 10. And I think PSA 10s are like $300 or something like, I don't know. It's stupid. Sometimes the stuff is just stupid. Do you still send stuff with a couple micro scratches? Yeah, pretty much. I do. If everything else looks mint and there's some micro scratches on the back, it depends on the card, but for the most part I still do. Not if there's like a ton, but if you really have to like move it around in the light a bunch to try and find them, if like you find it and you're like, oh, it's scratched, then you move the card and then you're like, oh shit, where did that scratch go? I still send those cards because I don't know. I think that people think that graders are looking at your cards for way longer than they actually are. To me, it's like if it looks mint in the 20 or 30 seconds that I look at it, then it'll probably look mint to the grader, and hopefully they give me a decent grade. But I do pre-grade everything. There are some people that like they take a quick look, throw it in the stack. Take a quick look, throw it in the stack. I go through with a light every card, making sure there's no dents, making sure there's no big scratches. Like I will pre-grade every card that I send off. So yeah. I know it's probably a waste of time in some instances, but I don't know. I like to it's a way for me to mitigate risk, and that I'm all about mitigating risk. So that's like my favorite thing to do is try and mitigate as much risk as possible. Cuz I hate it. I hate risk. But yeah. Yeah, that's all I really have. I mean, you guys have any questions or anything? From watching many PSA returns, it seems like PSA has a heavy bias towards modern cards. Well, I think modern cards are just in the best condition, right? Because I mean, they come straight out of packs. There's a lot less. There's a lot less for there to be wrong with them, because and I think even pack fresh cards from nowadays, pack fresh ultra rares look way better than I've been watching cool trainer Ryan open vintage from every era, and whether it's XY or EX or whatever, every time he pulls a hollow or some sort of big card from those packs and he turns it around, every single one is fucked on the back. So it's like yeah, they might have a bit of a bias towards modern, but I think modern is just better condition a lot of times, especially the ultra rares. So I think there's a reason why those cards get higher grades. Um, they definitely. I don't know if they just don't see the damage, but they definitely seem to be doing. I mean, it's good for me, but new back Japanese seems to be something that they grade fairly lightly on. Uh, Knock on wood. They seem to grade those pretty good. And new back Japanese, it's tough in a lot of ways to see the whitening on the backs compared to English. English has really dark borders, the really dark blue. New back Japanese has like this light, like sepia tone almost. That whitening on the backs of those cards, a lot of times, if it's minor, is really tough to see comparatively to whitening on like an English card. So I feel like on new back Japanese, sometimes that whitening stuff can get missed. There was a lot of PSA in my PSA return from December. There were quite a few cards where I was like, "What? That got a 10?" And then you look at the card and you're like, "That absolutely should not have gotten a 10." And then you sell it for a 10 price and you're like, "All right, well at least it's out of my hair now." But yeah, sometimes they can miss stuff. But in Japanese modern is just like, unless it has that weird top cut like in VMAX Climax, Japanese modern is like instant 10. It's like you almost don't have to pre-grade Japanese modern, just because I mean the card stock. Sometimes they could have like print lines, but typically that shit is on lock. Really good condition. So they're usually centered. You typically don't have to worry about, centering all that much. You typically, it's like print lines, and that's really it when it comes to Japanese modern. So, yeah, but I think that's really it for me. I appreciate you guys being here. Thanks for hanging out for my stream, and I hope you guys enjoyed, well, my reaction, and then on top of that, just kind of a breakdown of my February business stuff. And yeah, have a fantastic rest of your night. We'll see you guys. Oh, I want to ask you guys, those of you guys who are still here, I want to ask you. I was thinking about doing a stream on Saturday nights that is a gaming stream. Now, I posted this on the community tab on YouTube, and I asked a yes or no poll on whether or not people would want a Saturday night gaming stream, and it was heavy on the no. And then I removed the poll because I was like, why am I asking people that probably don't come to streams anyway? So I should probably ask the people that are actually on the stream what they think. So I thought about doing like a Saturday night gaming stream. And yeah, whether or not it would be like single player games, or sometimes it might be like multiplayer games. Like I know Degreen Shiz plays Rocket League, so it'd be cool to do like a Rocket League gaming stream with Degreen Shiz or something like that, or play the new Pokemon game I haven't played yet, or get a PlayStation 5 and play the new God of War, or those types of games that I really like. Um, yeah, just for like it'd be like a few hours on a Saturday night or whatever. Back on gaming, maybe. I gotta get my watch hours up to 4K. No, the watch hours have been actually doing really well, so that's not the reason why. I haven't played a video game really apart from Rocket League since I stopped streaming. That was like years ago now, or at least over 1 year ago now. So yeah, I think that it'd be nice to get back into gaming in some capacity. But if that didn't happen, then everyone gonna see the Twitch side come out. What's the Twitch side? What are you talking about? I don't have a Twitch side. You mean the ranter? The guy that rants about the video games he's playing? The guy that rants about Nintendo at every point that he can? That guy? Oh yeah. But yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we'll try it on Saturday and we'll start the new Pokemon game and we'll see what happens, and who knows? People show up, they show up. If they don't, they don't. But yeah, I think it could be fun. So it'd be kind of fun to do a like an open call in sort of thing too, where like I'm playing a video game or whatever, and if someone wants to chat about a topic, they can just hop into like the Discord chat or the chat thing, and we could talk about something happening either in the game or in the broader community or something like that. That could be a possibility as well. But yeah, appreciate it, guys. We'll see you later. Bye bye. Thanks for tuning in. Later.